Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Premiere Uncut. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now this show is actually an after show special, so it's closed after a previous live show, but I will do a quick shout out as this is a new show to you guys watching, to all of my Patreons, as I'm extremely grateful of all of their recent support. So I'll be doing a short to be added projector upgrade, and that will be definitely funded by all the people who've supported me. So shout out to Alistair, Billy, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Chow Young Cat, Dank, David Wayne Foster, Edwin, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin', Jeranism, Kirsten, Matt, Michael, Paige, Renee, Sam, Sweet Equity, Texas Mike, theflatearthchannel.com, and Tina Baker. Really do appreciate your support. So in the meantime, I'm going to raise the mic on the Discord and Google Hangouts on Air server. Jeez, we've got Spurs in there, so it's going to be chaos, but enjoy their dulcet tones. If I can ever get a gap to actually open the mic without it being blaring out as soon as I do, I'll keep chatting until I do see that little gap.
We need to have the gas pressure before we could have the gradient. So when you say, so
gradient is step 3.
No,
Right.
the word
Yes, it is.
pressurized gas
Gradient is step 3.
has meanings. It has meanings behind the word pressurized gas. So you can't have pressurized gas unless it liquefies or becomes a fluid at the gradient.
Wrong. I'm gonna do QE. Wrong.
Well, that's why I did the video. If that's wrong, then you need to show that that's not true.
You need to show it first.
The whole
You
hour.
did,
showing
and then
us
you
the-
couldn't believe the explanation.
took
The
a whole
explanation
hour
or
to show it
demonstration.
wasn't true, and you're still talking about it. Stop it. Stop taking over the show.
well, maybe that's my fault. I did ask him another question. I'm slightly confused about where Spurs is coming from with this.
Well, don't worry. There's plenty of time to talk about. This is not something that will just go away because people are looking into this right now, and they're
Oh
seeing.
yeah, you're just leading them on a great path. Spurs schema, just great. That's what we need. More confusion. Thanks.
Why don't you show me where temperature can be a barrier? Why don't you do that? That's what your argument is. You demonstrate that.
Absolutely, I can absolutely show that. So we know
No,
that.
no, not talk about it. Not talk about it. There's a difference between talking about it and showing it.
Well, did you watch the video that I presented on Rantis?
I did not. I've told you that already. I
Well,
did
you asked
not.
me to show it but you won't watch.
Then bring up your video and show it to us.
So you want
Present
to present Rantis' video, my presentation.
Then you bring up the video and you show us.
What on earth are you asking?
He's asking you to show. Let me clarify. Let me clarify,
You're the
Spurs.
one making the
Spurs,
claim.
hold on, Paul. He's asking you to show temperature behaving as a barrier. And you've said it's on my video. I've watched your video, and I know you haven't got an example of that. But you feel free to bring it up and show him, like you've said you've got.
I support that claim.
Oh, his question was temperature acting as a barrier.
Yes.
I didn't hear that.
Unbelievable. How can temperature be a barrier when temperature is nothing without matter? Temperature is only an aspect of matter. How can that be a barrier for the matter? You're basically saying the matter is going to form a barrier for itself.
No, there's no barrier. What do you mean barrier?
Oh, really?
What are you talking about?
Spurs.
Pretty sure you just used those words.
Okay, I'll say this. I'll rephrase it. Show how temperature can contain something.
Temperature can contain.
Well, if That's
No,
just
because you
about
know
as
what,
reasonable as a
like,
force disequilibrium being able to
have
contain.
this conversation with Arwen because he's just freaking out here, and this is why a lot of people are freaking out because they believe there's a pulling push press on their body. So again, we'd have to have this.
Hey, you're just talking. You're just talking.
Yeah,
Demonstrate,
we don't need your indoctrination.
demonstrate
Thank you.
demonstrate how temperature can contain gas. Show us.
Who
Okay,
said
don't
that?
don't we
I
have
never
to
said
first?
that.
Tell us about it.
Right,
I never
right,
said that, Paul.
right. That's
Who
right,
said?
Paul. Right, you have to. You're assuming that he's saying that, so we have to establish what Spurs is saying. So Spurs, can you just simply repeat or make a claim, and then go from there? Because that's not. You're asking him to do something, Paul, that I don't think he's saying.
Okay, so this is what I will say. Positive, negative, magnets. You have hot, cold temperature. So negative pressure, which is extremely cold, pulls, and then you have positive, which is warmer, and this pushes. So this is my claim. There's a push pull.
You don't have negative pressure.
Yeah,
you're back, are you? Oh, sorry, everyone chill. Everyone chill. So you're back, are you, John? So have you had your breakfast? Are you all ready? What I've done is I've scheduled a live stream. So we'll do a toe tag live. What do you reckon?
We could. I'm not ready yet. I'm halfway done.
Okay, no, just let me. What I'm saying is, whenever you're ready, I've got a live stream set up. So what I'll do is I'll just start a live stream rather than doing a toe tag, trimming it out. I'll do it the other way around. So I'll just have it. I'll go live. We'll do it. We'll end the live stream and then toe tag done.
Now this is another toe. This is Georgie.
Yeah, I've got the
You
show
already
is titled.
You knew that.
Yeah.
You
The
knew
show
that.
is titled FED Toe Tag Live. George and the Sky Vacuum.
George and yeah, he didn't answer the question. It might sky vacuum / gravity.
Say that again.
Sky vacuum / gravity. Anthony asked him the question, but he didn't answer his question. It was more of talking about gravity. You understand?
Yeah, I'm just changing it. Gravity and the Sky Vacuum. It's
Yeah, you could do that.
I want it to be. I want the Sky Vacuum in the title.
Okay. I'll let you know when I'm done.
Okay, no worries. Just give me a heads up. Sorry to interrupt
Thanks.
you in the what's the word? Nonsense. Commence.
Yeah, this is nonsense. I had an empty mouth and he said negative pressure and I was like, oh god. So okay, go ahead, let him go at it.
Well, for one, Russ, real quick, he's talking but not demonstrating. For one, there's a big difference. So
I'm really curious what would happen if you put Spurskimo and Brenda in a room and have Brenda oppose Spurskimo in this argument and let them talk for 8 hours. I wonder how many people will die at the
I was
end
going
of
to say, how many people would commit suicide?
Yeah.
I would like to ask something on this topic, but not on this topic, Spurs. Why are you on this vibe?
Because obviously we're looking for truth, aren't we? So if we've been told there's a pressure, we need to be able to demonstrate that pressure. It's just the same as curvature or spin or space vacuums, or any of these claims.
Sure, it's called a barometer.
I told you how they work, John. I've researched this.
Full of shit. I've used them. I've done it. So has everyone else in grade school. What the hell is your argument against? Oh, you haven't used them.
You couldn't go to Alaska and use them.
Shut the fuck up.
This is a test of one's will,
Spurs.
right? Every one of us has sworn at Spurs so far, me included, right? I don't know how he's doing it. He's got a magic spell or something.
I haven't sworn at Spurs yet, but I have a question.
I've yelled at him. I didn't swear to him.
Knowing how a barometer works, does that negate the fact that there is pressure? Regardless of how you know it works or not?
Sorry about that. No, they only register. You can't avoid the temperature, which is why pilots, they're always calibrating them, because obviously when they're just sitting there, the temperature's constantly changing, and it's messing with their devices. Now, they would tell you the pressure is changing. Now, how can you sit there? Pressure is 14.7 psi, and that pressure drops and increases where they're sitting. This is absurd. So the idea is that the temperature affects their devices, any devices like that, and they try their best, like with mercury or whatever it is, to you had a guy yesterday on Jose the day before saying, oh, they thought of a device that the temperature doesn't affect these metals. It's like, what? Demonstrate that. He's like, well,
But let's say you have a barometer and it freezes over and you can't use it to measure the pressure. Okay, is there still pressure, or is there now no pressure because now you can't measure it?
Yeah, but that's look. It all depends on the instrument. There are multi-level barometers for different conditions.
Right. I'm just asking. Does the instrument you're using to measure something, the fact that does not work, does that negate the fact that the thing that you're measuring is there?
See, one thing I want to say something to Spurs about pressure that he does. He said it several times and nobody's caught on it. He says we don't feel this pressure.
Oh,
Okay?
don't cut! Excuse me,
Erwin, hang on.
I've been harping on that for a week.
Listen, Paul, you just hijacked. You just hijacked Chocolate's question.
Okay, go ahead, Chocolate.
He asked a question, and then Spurs didn't answer.
I can't remember what it was now. Sorry, it's just so many. That's what I mean.
You're saying at some point this barometer you're speaking of will freeze over, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, does that negate the fact that the pressure is there for the barometer to measure?
No, because remember, pressure means force. So you're saying something is pressing on the barometer, when what's actually happening is the temperature is causing it to contract. So if you change the temperature, if you stand right there and you warm up the barometer in the cold, you'll see a difference. So where's the pressure in this case?
Now, I think you ought to
say. Go ahead.
I think you ought to volunteer for drug analysis.
That makes perfect sense to me. I completely understand what Spurs is saying.
Oh my God! Yeah, you need to take the same ship he's on, Travis. You're freaking clown, man.
Okay, listen to what I didn't say. Okay, listen to what I didn't say.
On multiple levels.
Come on,
you are a clown, sir.
Don't prejudge. You didn't
listen to what I'm not saying.
To this moron?
I didn't say that I agree with him completely. I'm saying I understand what he's saying. What he's saying makes sense to me.
That's it. And then you should. I'll tell you what. Why don't you two get married?
Stop talking.
Go over
John.
to Pete and Pete. Right?
Stop talking.
I think
don't
you
tell me
need
to
to say
stop.
you understand
I don't
what
listen to
he's
imbeciles
thinking.
like you. You telling me to stop, like Elmer Fudd telling Tiger Woods to stop. You freaking clown. Go marry
you freaking clown. All right, listen. Okay, so why don't we discuss the fact that let's discuss the fact that how is air pressure measured then? How is air pressure measured?
Ready. Anytime you're ready, Nathan.
Through pressure differential. You have a differential.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give my wife a
pressure.
cup of coffee, then I'll be back in 2 seconds.
How is that measured, Arwen?
Can I explain something?
By comparing it one to the other. How do you measure temperature? By comparing one to the other. That's the differential. That is how you establish it is there.
Okay, I'm sorry, Arwen, but I do not feel like you're answering my question. I'm asking you.
I did.
No, if you and I were to go outside and you were to measure the air pressure at sea level with me, we're standing right there. What's your instrument?
A barometer. Travis,
Johnny Q boy. Johnny Q boy. I'm not talking to you.
Yeah, we said the same thing. We said the same thing. So what is your point?
Okay, so how does that barometer work? How does it operate?
It has a pressure on its own, and then it is established by testing it.
I'll tell you what.
Pressure
It's like
differential.
asking how a toaster
The pressure
oven works,
differential
Travis.
causes the liquid inside to attain different heights, and that is how the pressure differential is then established.
Okay, so again, you're saying pressure differential, whereas Spurs is saying that there's a measurement of temperature. but not pressure. So you're saying that there's a measurement
Can't
of
have
pressure.
temperature when
Yeah, but
John,
hold on.
what's the matter? Why
you
do you
can
have to?
subject a temperature
Well,
to a
because I'm
barometer,
tired of listening
but
to
it
your
will
mental
yield very
retardation.
different
That's all.
results.
Okay, can we just stop this for a second? Pretend that I'm a baller, okay?
You
And I'm
are. I
asking.
do pretend
I
you are
am,
because
don't
you
worry.
are.
Okay, John, you are
John,
probably
Travis,
the most.
Travis.
Oh,
the
come
most
on.
clear
I don't
Let's go
care
at
what you
home. Let's
think,
not go at
Travis.
home. Come on.
You
No,
are
I'm
a
not.
clown,
I'm not.
sir. You've
He is
proven
the
it a
most.
number of
John, you are the
times.
most
Every time you open up that
demonstrable
incoherent pile
proof
of yours,
of someone who
right?
is not a Christian. You are
I
absolutely
don't care what you
not a
think I am.
Christian.
Not a Christian,
Come
right?
on.
No,
You
I'm
friggin'
saying that
clown.
you are
You think
attacking me.
you
Why
think
are you losing
Revelation's
your
already
shit so
now,
happened?
often?
You
now the
clown, not a
conversation's never
Christian.
gonna
Go
finish.
take a hike.
Thanks, dude.
Fool.
John,
I
stop
treat you as
talking.
a
I'm talking
friggin'
to Arwen.
pagan.
I'm not talking
That's
to
what
you,
you
John.
are. You're a pagan.
I'm a
Pagan
pagan.
baller.
Okay. Yeah.
Take a
Well,
hike.
at least I'm self-controlled and not losing
Take
my
a
shit.
hike. I'm self-controlled. You're a friggin' pagan.
Okay.
Okay.
My point
Come
is
on,
that
guys.
my
It's
point is
really
What's
not
that
wrong
necessary
with the
for all this.
barometer? How does the
Oh God!
barometer work?
Hold on. I've
Go
got to take
back to
charge.
grade
Stop. Hold
school.
on. Stop.
John,
Stop. Stop.
wow.
Right.
John, come on, John.
Wow.
It's not
Let me just try once
necessary
more.
either.
Chocolate,
Like, we
John,
could have a
Travis,
good
all of
convo,
you.
man.
Hello. Right. Can I just hear what Travis has got to say once, please?
Okay.
All I'm asking for is a definition of terms. I'm asking questions so that I can understand what is being said in order to process the information. Okay.
Right.
So, Arwen, you're telling me that a barometer is measuring pressure, whereas Spurs is saying it's measuring temperature. Correct? Is that the
Well,
dichotomy?
technically the same setup. The device is a certain setup, and it could also potentially be applied to measure temperature as well. But the type of readouts it will give for that will be very different from the type of pressure readouts.
Okay.
Because
All right.
temperature has a very different influence on that setup, on the material, as it has on pressure, as pressure does.
Okay. Spurs. How do you know it's not measuring pressure? How do you know it's measuring temperature? How can you make that distinction?
Because all of these devices malfunction under certain temperatures, weather conditions. So you could be sitting there, a pilot, and he's telling you that the pressure has changed, so he needs to recalibrate. Now, if it's 14.7, how has the pressure dropped to what? 10.7, 12.7, 13.7? Obviously, we know the temperature would change where you're standing because obviously, wind currents, air currents, things moving, the air is moving, we know that. But in terms of a pressing down on a device, like you stand on a scale and it reads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're saying that a device presses on their device and reads 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way up to 14.7. So how is this done?
The device is set up, the liquid is basically injected in a certain proportion to the rest of what is in there. And then it is basically established how much the liquid will displace within the device due to pressure changes. It's just compared, it's tested, and potentially the same could be done with temperature, because a classic thermometer is not that far off of how a barometer works. It's simply attuned to different concepts, because temperature again has a very different effect on that kind of setup of that type of device as pressure does. So the setup can be used for both things.
Why? All right. As we understand in the real world, we usually use scales or a sensor to feel the pressure, whether it's be water, whether it be a human, whether you put a car on, one of those things to weigh how heavy an object, whether you drive a big lorry over, when they look through customs, they apply pressure. So this is for me is real. Can I finish?
That's a mechanical device.
Yeah, just monologue for the next 30 minutes. It's been an hour and a half.
I'm nearly finished. It's
Hey,
10 more
Travis,
seconds.
it's just an allegory, man. Just allegorize it and you'll be okay. clown.
So if you're
Let's
talking
just
about
continue
real
with
world
this for the
pressure,
next
we're
3
talking about an
hours.
applied pressure. So if mercury should have the same effect when anything else presses on it, you could take that
You
device
could do
barometer
it. You don't
underwater.
have to use mercury. It's just a
No, but the
dense
point
liquid.
is that
You
you could
could
take
use
your barometer
water.
underwater.
You could
and
use
because the
water in a
pressure
barometer.
is
Only it'll be,
quite-
since water is 10 times less dense than mercury, 10 to 15 times, then your barometer is going to be 10 to 15 times larger. I mean, this is grade school stuff, people. You understand? Do you understand why I'm getting so pissed?
Not really, because like I said, we're looking for real world pressure,
Oh,
applied pressure.
I'll tell you what, you're lucky I can't come
no,
through.
your
Computer.
conceptualization of how you see reality with what you've done so far, that's not the real world, buddy. In the real world, we definitely experience and sense, as well established in many, many ways, gas pressure.
Can I give an example for the real world? I'm screen sharing.
Yeah, let's have a look.
So first,
Everybody's drinking right
4 more hours.
Well, we're going to do
John
a live
Paul.
show in a minute. We're going to do your toe tag for George Netanyahu. As soon as this is... I'm just waiting for a natural lull. There may never be one. Spurs is here.
Spurs, are you
gotcha.
seeing the screen?
Yeah, and what we're seeing here is warm. So obviously, as you go up into in high altitudes,
No. Are you seeing 3 people on
yes,
the screen? Yeah, that's the one in the middle with the black. That's me. On
okay.
my arm, there is a blue thingy with an arrow. Do you know what's this? That's
I
an
don't know.
altimeter. That measures how high I am
Okay.
above the surface of the Earth. All right, so what I try to explain to you is that I have instances that on the ground, I'm sitting for 20 minutes on the plane waiting to fly out, and we have a constant temperature, and I've had my altimeter drop in reading and show that I'm actually lower, and I have to go and show that I'm higher within the same range of temperature. How is that possible?
That's what I'm asking you. How can it show a difference in pressure when you're just sitting there?
And then when I take off, it's 15 degrees colder up in the air, and it's still showing that I'm going higher. Why
Yeah.
is it now showing the opposite?
That's my point. The temperature is playing havoc with your instruments.
No, I just told you that at the same temperature, it reads lower and higher. So gas pressure, it's sometimes not directly related to temperature because I've had both instances.
Yes, you
Right.
have different readings in different locations. It's
No,
not
the same location, same temperature, different readings.
That's right. They don't have a linear relation.
No, I'm
Not
saying the pressure
interchangeable.
where you're sitting will drop or increase.
Pressure and temperature are not interchangeable.
Do you understand that? On my video, I show a pilot where he says he sits there and he waits for the pressure to equalize because it drops, it raises, and he has to calibrate his device because the plane thinks he's higher than he actually is. So he has to reset and say, no, I'm on the ground. I'm not really at higher altitudes. Reset.
Lovely has nothing to do with what we just said. Lovely.
You see what I'm saying? So your device.
Yeah, we see what you're saying. You're red herring again.
Just obfuscating the point.
No, because the pressure is constant, isn't it?
No, you are red herring us.
Is the pressure not
No,
constant?
it's getting really annoying.
I just explained to you how it's not constant.
The pressure is not constant. Okay, so what's the rate of the pressure then?
At the Dead Sea, they've measured the lowest pressure ever of 12 point something psi, which is 0.85 bars.
No. Where you're sitting, what's the pressure there?
Around 14.7 psi, and it
But you
can
said
go
the pressure-
lower and
You
it can
said
go higher.
the pressure changes where you're sitting.
It can go lower and it can go higher during the day several times.
So this is what I'm saying. So the pressure is changing where you're sitting, yes?
Yes.
Right. So that means if it's 14.7, then you're saying if it drops to 12.6, 0.7, and then it may go back up.
Yeah. And how is that related to temperature when the temperature?
But you're saying, hold on, we need to understand this. So what you're saying is that the particles, this pressure, they're hitting you at a faster rate and then returning at a slower rate, and then coming at a slower rate and turning at a faster rate. It's up and down, up and down. It's not constant. It's not constantly 14.7, or when they say gravity, the 9.8 meters per second, it's not constant, that pressure. You're saying it changes, right?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. There you go. So if it's changing the pressure, that means someone's pressing their hand on your head, up and down, up and down. Okay, so that's another belief that we have, that the pressure, someone's pressing down on your head hard some days, and then they just release their hand slightly, and now there's less pressure on your head.
Well, the entire world is not in a perfect equilibrium, because there's still gases being made on the ground.
Tell me about your story a little bit more.
There's still gases being made on the ground.
I'm interested in this new story now. So now someone presses harder on some days for some people. So that's interesting.
There is a pressure differential because there is constant change in pressure, because there's temperature on the ground causing gases to evaporate, all these things. So yeah, it's in motion. It's in motion, definitely. The atmosphere is not in perfect equilibrium. Absolutely.
Amazing.
Hello.
You're saying there that when you're sitting in your plane, the pressure drops for you, but in other places along the plane, the flat plane, the pressure stays the same or decreased. Now this is whoa. So we have an engine.
It can even rise first.
Whoa, this is amazing system. So
it is, isn't it? It is. It's almost like a sea of air that goes around like in a big swimming pool. That's kind of what it is like, except the air, it's transparent. It's not a liquid.
So we have
but as a big body, it almost does behave like a liquid.
You can't handle this, can you? You're freaking out here, aren't you?
What? That air as a body can behave somewhat like a liquid? Yeah, no, that is perfectly acceptable. It's still a gas, though. It's still gas pressure within that.
Now the lid,
body of water
has pistons
pressure.
Pushing down still gas. Pressure. And other places.
I'm just one step away of kicking you here, because I wasn't finished, and half of my explanation you literally talked over for no good reason. It's
Aaron,
really aggravating.
He has nothing else to do than talk over.
Oh, is this my lull?
Go, Nathan, go.
So it's not a shock to me.
No, it's not.
That the entire atmosphere and the gas kind of behaves like a liquid a bit, but it is not a liquid. It's just the behavior of the overall body. Okay? Because it's not in equilibrium, because there's temperature changes, there's gases being interacted with, chemically reacted on the surface a lot. So there's a lot happening. It's not in equilibrium, it's moving. And the way it moves kind of seems like a big body of water, but not water, it's gas, all of it.
Can you tell us how a barometer works?
Are
you asking Spurs Chemo?
Yes, he is, yes.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm not. I was asking Armin.
Earth. We have an engine at the top pressing some parts of the atmosphere down, causing more pressure, and other parts causing less pressure. This is a creation that I had no idea existed, and I would like to see a demonstration of the roof, the container of the lid, pressing down some parts of pressure over the plain truth here, and then over other parts, raising the pressure, making it lower. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's a dynamic system. That's what it does all the time.
Yeah, dynamic system. That's dynamic, all right. Container, the lid is dynamic, all right. You best believe that.
Yeah, go ahead and turn on the Weather Channel, and when you see that big H, that means high pressure, and when you see the big L's, that means low pressure. Okay?
I don't have a TV. No, not of this gas pressure.
I understand it now. I understand the roof of your roof has pistons. It presses down like, boom, boom, boom.
What?
It presses here, presses here, presses there. More pressure over plain truth, less pressure over Arwin. More pressure over Nathan, less pressure over John. More pressure over.
Holy shit! Somebody quickly get his medication.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, he's taking too much.
Oh, damn it! Somebody take away his medication. When they start to sing songs like that, you know something is going wrong.
No, but that's what I imagine. You know, when the frogs are bouncing up and down, they're bobbing heads. So that's like the roof is bobbing up and down, pressing the plain truth, and then over another place, it's raising up. It's less pressure, and then more pressure, and less pressure. Wow.
Spurs, do you know what's rotary motion in the atmosphere?
No, it makes sense to me. The temperature changes. That's all you're reading.
No. I asked you, do you know what
the wind goes past your plane? It makes with warm air. It goes up. It goes past cold air. As the cold air drops, it changes. That's why it thinks you're higher when you're actually on the ground, because the cold air has just sunk and blown across your plane. Not pressure. Nothing pushed down on the plane. Oh, the plane.
No, there's still the pressure going on despite this flow, this constant change, this equilibrium within the atmosphere.
Now
there's still gas pressure. That's still all dependent on the gas pressure being there and pressing against the walls of the container, and then attempting to form some kind of gradient, but not entirely so, because it is not capable of reaching perfect equilibrium due to the constant changes on the surface.
Arwen, he's now misrepresenting what I've said.
You said that the pressure over your plane drops. And
not over. No, you're misrepresenting.
What happens then? Explain.
Quote me then if you know what I said.
I don't. You said the pressure drops. What does that mean? The pressure drops from where?
No, I told you that I'm sitting inside the plane and there is no temperature change. There is no air motion. And my gauge still shows me a lower reading and I can see it dropping down. And other times I can see it in the same instance going up. Can you explain this with your temperature?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. I'm saying to you.
There is no temperature.
No. That not asking us, you answering.
I can agree with you. This is my point. So you're saying
we don't need agreement. We need an answer, not agreement, not a question to us.
It's not
an answer.
Look, if he says it's not the temperature, okay, fine. It's not the temperature. It's the pressure. You're saying, yeah. It has to be the pressure, not the temperature. Yeah.
Well, the temperature was empirically measured not to change. He didn't feel the pressure. He felt the pressure change.
Oh, what are we doing here? Let's remove the temperature and just
no. You don't need to. The temperature was constant. That's what he said.
Okay, fine. The temperature's constant. That's great.
Yes, and the pressure did change, though.
Okay, that's what we're sticking on. The change of pressure. I need to understand this. Is that difficult to ask? Can I ask?
So pressure can change without the temperature changing.
Okay, I'm not arguing with that. But can I ask questions, or should I just accept your belief?
Belief?
Can I ask questions about this idea that the pressure changed?
Sure, you can.
Right.
Whatever you want.
So are we talking about the pressure change to, like, let's say we blow our tires up to 30 psi, and now the tire has reduced to, say, 25 psi? Is that the kind of pressure change we mean, or are you talking about something else?
Asian?
I'm saying that the pressure changes between 0.5 and 1 psi.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Yeah, let's just say any change in pressure, like in a tire, blow a tire up to 20 to 30, and it goes down to 29.9. That's dropped. The pressure's dropped. It's now reduced in that tire. There's less pressure in that tire. Yes, is that what you're saying? Yes. Even if it's 29.9.9.90 doesn't matter.
Why are you straw manning rerouting the argument? We were talking about his
1.1 of pressure has reduced. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, great. So now you're saying that in this tire where the pressure is reduced.
I'm not saying tire, altimeter.
But it's a container. You say we live in a container, right?
What?
We don't live in a tire.
Do we live in a container though or not?
Yes, but we don't live in a tire.
Okay, so what's the container like then? So I can. What's the container?
It has walls in all directions. Somehow.
The container is more dense than the gas it contains.
I know, but I'm just asking, what is the? He said it's not like a tire. You've got. He said the pressure decreases, so it's not like a tire pressure then. So it's not like real world pressure then. What kind of pressure are you talking about then?
the local pressure that increases around my
Yeah, what is
altimeter.
that? Because I
And
only
like
know of air pressure. Yeah, but I don't know what that is. Hold on. I don't know what that is. I only know of real world pressure, like when you pump up a tire or you compress a real container. Now you're saying this container is not like that and this pressure is not like that. So can you just describe to me what this pressure is and what that container is?
That pressure is local and it depends on the currents and air motion around the location where I'm at. So let's say 1 kilometer away from the airfield that where we jump, you may have a much different pressure, let's say higher and sometimes lower than what we have on the airfield.
Is it a physical pressure?
Yeah.
Yeah, physical pressure.
Physical pressure, yeah?
Yeah, physically measurable with the barometer.
No, it's
For goodness
allegorical.
sakes, I'm trying to have a conversation with the guy who's actually got a plane here, Arwin. You're just making stuff up. You don't have a plane. You've never been in one. Right.
Oh, really?
You charged Arwin
Bertino?
with making stuff up?
How would you know that? You unbelievable ass.
Well, you keep jumping in, Arwin. Why?
Because you're making claims that need immediate refuting.
Yeah, but the man with the
And
plane.
I am. In just a few words. If you can't handle that, sorry.
Yeah, but the guy with the plane would like to respond because he's saying that the pressure drops. That was his claim.
Yeah, and he measured it, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, Spurs, can you show us non-physical pressure anywhere in the world?
No, but I just said to you about a tire and the air in that. You said it's not like that. And I'm saying to me, that's real world pressure. That's a real force. When I blow air into a balloon, I'm the force and we're applying the pressure into the balloon. And if I obviously, blow up more, give it more pressure. So that's how I understand real pressure. If the pressure in the balloon drops, I open the balloon, release the pressure, release the air, lower the pressure. Is it the same as you're describing is what I'm asking? Like a balloon, like a tire, like a container, like a canister. Is it the same as that? Or is this your version of pressure and your version of a container? What's going on?
Spurs, are you familiar that in different locations you may have varying pressures during the day?
No, because you keep on saying the word pressure, and I'm asking you, is it the same as tire pressure, balloon pressure, or is it your own version of pressure?
How many different pressures there are?
So it's like a tire. Can we get back to the analogous?
That's not answering my question. How many different gas pressures?
Just one. I gave you the tire. I said to you a tire. You said not like that. Then I asked you, what is it like then?
Not example of a container, a type of pressure.
Yes. So when I apply a pressure to a tire,
my pressure and tire pressure. What's my pressure and what's the tire pressure difference in pressure?
Your pressure and a tire's pressure.
Yeah, you apparently are making some distinguishment between them. What's the difference between them?
No, we have a pressure of 2.4 psi. So yeah, we have so your heart pumps a pressure of the liquid through your body at 2.4 psi. That's another real world pressure. So when you cut yourself or you bleed, you don't splurt out fountains of blood because you only pump out at 2.4.
If you keep this up, you are.
Do you understand?
Oh my God. We're talking about gas pressure.
Yeah, but I'm talking about pressure, real world pressure.
And I'm talking
gas
about
pressure, blood pressure, water pressure, any kind of pressure is a real world pressure. Yeah.
Under pressure, coming down on me. Come on down on me.
Sperskimo, would you
under pressure
would you be so profound in your belief that gas pressure that doesn't exist that you would go unprotected in a vacuum chamber to back up that claim? We would love to see that at this point.
Oh yeah, that would be lovely.
At this point.
Gas pressure exists in a container controlled by man.
Did I hear a yes?
We do not put gas pressure into this container. Who's putting the gas in? Who's lowering the pressure?
So you would be willing to do that?
And who's increasing the pressure like we do in a tire? How can you decrease the pressure and increase the pressure?
Surprise, surprise.
In the system, it's dynamic. You had the other answer from the one earlier. You just didn't listen, Spurs.
Nathan, you have the patience of Job. Just want to let you know.
What do you mean? Patience?
Yeah, patience, man, because we were heading on to a mission, but you just said, okay, just let this just go. That's okay. I don't mind.
You sound very pleased.
Hold on, guys. I'm hearing secret code for I mind. I really mind.
No, I don't. No, I would never lie. Never. No way, man. I wear them on my sleeve.
John was just singing, so we know where this is going now.
30 days in the hole.
Are we all going to be cool for a presentation?
John is putting up the angry wife act, so you gotta not take them literal.
What?
What the heck?
This is a debate show, Arwin. This is not family
he
affairs.
was perfectly fine with it. No, it's okay, honey. No, it's perfectly fine. I'm not agitated at all.
Did anybody notice how he added the word
honey in this scenario?
I was going to say, you noticed he added the word in honey. Like,
you know what I mean.
Do you hear Arwin earlier? You got me acting like John now. What the heck was that?
The cheek of it.
Well, getting very loud and very angry. That's what I meant.
I hardly ever get loud and angry. All right, we done?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to FED Toe Tag Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, our presentation comes to you courtesy of Quantum Eraser, so I'll say a very quick hello to you first and foremost. How are you doing, QE?
Hello, sir.
Hello. Now, we do have a panel of both Discord and Google Plus participants, so feel free to say hello because you're going to go on mute in a moment for this presentation, but this is your chance to say hello.
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 Get it all out. Get it all out.
Good afternoon.
Earth is flat.
Excellent outbursts. Excellent. Okay, so today's presentation is going to be about George Netanyahu. So he had a back and forth mono on Jose JG Gonzalez channel. Shout out to him for hosting it. And that's now going to get ripped a new one by Quantum Eraser. So let me know when you're ready and I'll present your screen.
You mean the one with Riley?
Oh, that was an excellent reminder from Arwin.
Or was it the previous one?
Took 20 seconds before an interruption came.
You're welcome.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
I got a question. Are you going to let those guys talk afterwards? Or?
Absolutely. Yeah, once the toe tag's concluded, we'll get some comments on the toe tag. I'll round out the live show, and then it'll continue in what has already been an after show for a different show that's not related to the live show. So, we'll continue afterwards. But once the toe tag's done and it's been discussed, that's where the live show will end, and I'll thank the live audience.
Okay. Yeah, you don't have to share my screen. Just don't play this yet, but just go to the play section at 2:17:19.
You say don't play it yet. I'm ready to do whatever you say, but it's, I'll cue it when it's ready to be played, if that makes sense. It's already all queued up.
Yeah, you could go ahead and put that on screen because I think it's really important that we also get the visuals. So I want you to play every section. Go to your screen playing the video because it's really important that you see him while he's talking. I mean, that's 80% of it, if you could believe it. But this is the biggest pile of convoluted Elmer Fudd sophist rambling, insane, inane horseshit ever uttered. I'm serious. There's a 5-minute monologue here, just droning and rambling like an imbecile. It's unbelievable. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. But when I seen it, I said, oh, okay, now I got it. I see the problem. So let's go ahead and get into it. Go ahead and play from 217.19 and stop at 219.02.
How does the consequence of the curvature of space-time act as a force by reducing the energy, the kinetic energy, from the escaping velocity of the gas particles?
I'll be right with you. I'm getting a drink.
Thank you guys for keeping this cool and stable. I see. It's all good.
Sorry about that. I was listening to you. I have it on external speakers, and I was just filling up my glass. Yeah. Okay. Now, gravity, unfortunately, is used synonymous with the force of gravity in lay terms, and it is. I see people quoting this interview that was done with George Muser.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
No, I'm saying it all lends to this issue. Einstein, in the general theory of relativity, referred to the warpature of space-time as explaining the motions that we see. He calls that gravity. That is not a force. Unfortunately, gravity has been used synonymously with force, and it is not. Gravity is the umbrella that encompasses the general relativity theory. He calls that gravity. That theory is called gravity. The bending of space-time is gravity.
All right, you can flip over to me.
Okay.
You know, we'll do the same thing in that vein that we always do. You can flip back over. So, the question from Anthony: how does the consequence of the curvature of spacetime act as a force by reducing the kinetic energy from the escape velocity of the gas particles? So that's the question now. So we got Georgie Tatonka. So gravity, unfortunately, is used synonymous with the force of gravity in lay terms. And it is, I see people quoting this interview that was done by George Muser. It all lends to this issue. Einstein, in the general theory of relativity, referred to the warpature of space-time as explaining the motions that we see. He calls that gravity. That is not a force. Unfortunately, gravity has been used synonymously with force, and it is not. All right? Gravity is the umbrella that encompasses the general relativity theory. He calls that gravity. That theory is called gravity. The bending of space-time is gravity. So, gravity is not a force 2 times. General theory of relativity is warpature of space-time. And what the hell is warpature, pray tell? C, unfortunately, gravity has been used synonymously with a force and is not. And D, you haven't addressed Anthony's question. See, he didn't address his question yet. Continue. Play from 219.02, stop at 219.46, showing him.
Now, in our world, that gets projected down as a force. We experience it as a force. There's a force field that results as this bending of space-time. The bending of space-time is not the force itself. It manifests itself as a force in our world. We call that the force of gravity or gravitational force. That is not gravity. Gravity is the all-encompassing theory of general relativity. Gravity is not a force. And I think
Okay.
So, Georgie Tatonka. Now, in our world, that gets projected down as a force. We experience as a force. There's a force field that results as this bending of space-time. The bending of space-time is not the force itself. the bending of space-time, manifests itself as a force in our world. We call that force of gravity or gravitational force. That is not gravity. Gravity is the all-encompassing theory of general relativity. Gravity is not a force. So, what gets projected down as a force, Georgie Tatonka? Then down from where? We experience what as a force? Number 3, so there's a force field that results from the bending of space-time, warpature, if you will. And how can the bending of space-time not be the force, but manifest itself as a force in this world? And are you implying 2 or more separate worlds here, by chance? Number 6, the bending of space-time is the force of gravity or a gravitational force. Number 7, so the force of gravity or the gravitational force isn't gravity? Gravity is the theory of general relativity. But gravity is not a force. Now we have a total times 3. And number 10, you still haven't addressed Anthony's question yet. So, summary from both iterations above. Gravity is not a force or the gravitational force 5 times. Number 2, the force field gravitational force results from the bending of space-time, warpature, again, if you will, and manifests itself as a force in this world. But it isn't a force? Question, how can something manifest itself as Z and not BZ? And you haven't addressed Anthony's question yet. P.S. Georgie, Tatonka, he says the bending of space-time is the force of gravity or gravitational force. Meanwhile, over at Cornell University, Joylyn Bloomfield, PhD physics, says Einstein said there is no such thing as a gravitational force. So, I don't know where you're getting this from. Are you making this shit up? Are you from MSU? Quick stop. Play from 2:19:46 to 2:20:08, please.
This is where the confusion is coming in. When Musser said gravity is not a force, he is thinking in terms of his colleagues that he's used to speaking with that understand this all-encompassing theory of general relativity. Yes, gravity is not a force. That is a theory. That's like saying
Okay.
Georgie Tatonka. Now I think this is where the confusion is coming in. Yeah, from you. Number 2, when Musser said gravity is not, George is saying this, when Musser said gravity is not a force, he's thinking in terms of his colleagues that he's used to speaking with that understand this all-encompassing theory of general relativity. And Georgie again, yes, gravity is not a force. That is a theory. So, let me just say this, folks. Georgie, you need to be institutionalized immediately. Number 2, how do you know what Musser's thinking? Must be those special Evo mind powers that Gimp Panda Soundly and Rumpus have executed. And still on number 2, do you know Musser's colleagues and what they speak of and what they understand? Have you considered carnival as a vocation, sir? Number 3, so gravity is not a force. That's the 4th time you mentioned this. And you still have yet to address Anthony's question. He now strays a little bit. Quick stop this one. Go ahead and play from 2:20:08. Stop at 2:20:16.
electromagnetism is not a force. No, electromagnetism is not a force. We have electromagnetic forces.
Okay.
So, Georgie Tatonka, that's like saying magnetism is not a force. No, electromagnetism is not a force. Number 3, we have the electromagnetic forces. This is scary, insane, Dunning-Kruger retard, folks. Just this. Preposterous. I can't believe he said that. Continue 220.08, stop at 220.48.
Saying electromagnetism is not a force. No, electromagnetism is not a force. We have electromagnetic forces, or we have electric forces, electrostatic forces, we have magnetostatic forces, magnetic forces. But the encompassing theory is called electromagnetism, just like gravity is the manifestation of space-time, and from that results the gravitational forces that we experience here on Earth. We can describe what is happening in our world by using what we call forces.
Okay.
Georgie Tatonka. We have electric forces, we have electrostatic forces, we have magnetostatic forces, magnetic forces, but the all-encompassing theory is called electromagnetism. Just like gravity is the manifestation of space-time, and from that results the gravitational forces that we experience here on Earth. We can describe what is happening in our world by using what we call forces. You're off the wall false equivalence fallacy here, and a non sequitur. It's not that the conclusion didn't follow from its premise. There wasn't a conclusion. And you're still saying this manifestation of space-time, and that results in gravitational forces. But we just seen from Cornell University that Einstein said that there are no gravitational forces. And he's the one that dreamed up space-time. So where did you get that? Also, the false equivalence, you use electric forces, electrostatic forces, magnetostatic forces, and magnetic forces. These are all forces that make up the electromagnetism. Where's that with gravity? There's nothing here. You just conjure this. Just monologuing inanely. All right, continue. Play from 220.48 to 222.24, please.
The results are very sim. The Newton's laws are just a subset of the general relativity. If you go into Einstein's field equations, you put in the conditions where you're dealing with velocities much less than the speed of light, like we're experiencing here on Earth, where we're, 1,000th, 10,000th of 100,000th of the speed of light, and we're dealing with masses, less than galaxy size, like masses of the Earth. Mass of the Earth is on the order of I forgot, around 10 to the 28th kilograms, I think it is, something like that. And so as long as we're dealing with masses like, cars, big rocks, stones, and things like that, Newton's laws are perfectly acceptable. The gravitational field equations that Einstein developed reduced to Newton's laws in these conditions. And so the description of our world using Newtonian mechanics is perfectly valid. I can use Newtonian mechanics.
Stop it. Jose, it's a monologue.
Yeah, this. Go ahead. Am I up?
You are?
Yeah. So now remember, folks, Anthony asked him a question. We're still on the monologue. We haven't stopped. So you come out with this nonsense, right? So, Georgie, the results are very sim. The Newton's laws are just a subset of general relativity. This is nonsense, folks. Number one, scientific theories, actual ones, never, ever subset natural laws. It's inane. You'd fail 5th grade general science right here. Newtonian gravity and Einsteinian gravity are mutually exclusive. Number two, Newtonian gravity is a force. Einsteinian gravity is not a force. 3, Newtonian, the law of superposition applies. Einsteinian, the law of superposition does not apply. Number 4, they're not even in the same geometry, for crying out loud. Newtonian gravity is Euclidean 3 space, whereas Einsteinian gravity is pseudo-Riemannian 4 space. Newtonian gravity speaks to instantaneous actions at a distance. Einsteinian gravity is limited to the speed of light. Folks, drunken sailors and field goal posts have more in common than Newton's and Einstein's fairy tales. Number 2, Georgie says, if you go into Einstein's field equations, you put in the conditions where you're dealing with velocities much less than the speed of light, where, like we're experiencing here on Earth, and we were 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 the speed of light, and we're dealing with masses less than the galaxy size, like masses of the Earth. Mass of the Earth is on the order of what I forgot, around 10 to the 28th kilograms. I think it's something like that. And so as long as we're dealing with masses like, cars, big rocks, and things like that, Newton's laws are perfectly acceptable. Number 1, overall horseshit non sequitur fallacy. The premise here, hypothetical using of Einstein's field equations. The conclusion, just use Newton's laws. Makes no sense. Number 2, as soon as you invoke 2 or more masses, Einstein's equations go in the shit can, sir. There are no known solutions for any of Einstein's field equations for 2 or more masses. PC, I don't think you understand the gravity of the situation here, sir, or the people in the audience. If you have 2 or more masses, like in their paradigm, if you look up in their paradigm, is there 2 or more masses up there? Yeah. Guess what? You can't use Einstein's field equations. For goodness sakes, people. From their alma mater wiki, they tell you straight up, as the field equations are nonlinear, we'll get back to that little gem in a minute, they can't always be completely solved, i.e. without making approximations. For example, there is no known complete solution for a space-time with 2 massive bodies in it, which is a theoretical model of a binary system. But yeah, right. Do you guys get this? Do you guys understand this? I'm talking to the audience, not to the friggin' globetards and the Einsteinian knuckleheads. You got to understand this, man. When they appeal to Einstein and his general theory of relativity, this is a belly-laughing joke. P.S. You see that nonlinear up there? Up yonder? That means the law of superposition does not hold, like I spoke about before. That is, you can't arbitrarily add additional masses to any of Einstein's field equations. Why? Because you can't solve them with 2 or more. That's why the law of superposition doesn't hold. With Newtonian mechanics, yeah, you can, in principle, you can. It'd be impossible to figure it out, but there's no reason why you can't add additional masses. So, Einstein's field equations describe a universe with only 1 mass or a completely empty friggin' universe. I don't know about you, but when I look up, empty doesn't strike me as something that I would think of. My word. PS2, just like there are no married bachelors, there are no scientific theory equations. Hope you all understand that. Here we go again, Georgie. The gravitational field equations that Einstein developed reduce to Newton's laws in these conditions. Horseshit. And thanks again. We could go over this again. Scientific theories, actual ones, never, ever, ever reduced to natural laws. It's inane buffoonery. Newtonian gravity and Einsteinian gravity are mutually exclusive. This is a well-da. Here's some of the reasons. Newtonian gravity is a force. Einsteinian gravity is not a force. Newtonian, like I just said above, the law of superposition applies. Einsteinian, the law of superposition does not apply. Number 4, they're not even in the same geometry, for crying out loud. Newtonian gravity is Euclidean 3 space, whereas Einsteinian gravity is pseudo-Riemannian 4 space. Newtonian gravity is instantaneous actions at a distance. Einsteinian gravity is limited to the speed of light. Drunken sailors and field goal posts have more in common than Newton's and Einstein's fairy tales. And, by the way, you still haven't answered Anthony's question. So we're going to continue with the monologue, play from 2:22:24, stop at 2:22:53, please.
We'll get a little bit before, but don't worry about it.
Log.
I was waiting till George finishes.
Made
To
many
tell
points.
you both, like, try to keep an eye on your own timer when you start addressing a comment. Try to keep it like 2 minutes short, to go back and forth.
Okay, sorry. Just long story short here. You can use Newtonian mechanics. You can take a baseball, throw it at an angle of 30 degrees with respect to the horizontal at, say, 30 meters per second. And using Newtonian mechanics, I can tell you to a high degree of accuracy where it's going to land on the Earth. It works perfectly fine.
Okay.
So after 5 minutes of imbecilic monologue, they tell him, okay, that's enough. And then he just continues even further. Sorry, just a long story short here. Yeah. You can use Newtonian mechanics. You can take a baseball, throw it at an angle of 30 degrees with respect to the horizontal at, say, 30 meters per second. And using Newtonian mechanics, I can tell you with a high degree of accuracy where it's going to land on the Earth. It works perfectly fine. Frigging scary. You're an imbecile of megalithic proportions that should be institutionalized and rubber-roomed immediately. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I wouldn't trust this booger eater to open a lemon drop wrapper without endangering himself and or others. And you still haven't answered Anthony's friggin' question yet. We got a PS. Quick stop. Play from 2:15:48. Stop at 2:16:01.
Energy. The potential energy gets converted into kinetic energy. This is the second law of thermodynamics, that energy can be neither created nor destroyed. Energy is always conserved.
Okay.
Thank you. Georgie Tatanka. The potential energy gets converted to kinetic energy. This is the second law of thermodynamics, that energy can't be created nor destroyed. Energy is always conserved. I was shocked. Number 1, that's not the second law of thermodynamics, Georgie Tatanka. He said energy can't be created nor destroyed. That's the first law of thermodynamics, sir. The second law of thermodynamics isn't a conservation law. And laughing my friggin' butt off. Potential energy has nothing to do with the first law. From Chem Libre Text. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy can be converted from one form to another with the interaction of heat, work, and internal energy, but it cannot be created nor destroyed under any circumstances. Mathematically, this is represented as the change in U equals Q plus W. The change in U is the total change in the internal energy of the system. The Q is the heat exchange between the system and its surroundings, and W is the work done by or on the system. So, I don't know. Are you on medication or something? You just compromised yourself big time with this one, brother. Like you didn't up above, but this is just a cherry on top. You're a stone cold Dunning-Kruger retard. So, let's get some from the rumpus. Quick stop. Play 252.21. Stop 252.26, please.
In Einstein's theory, gravity is not a force, but rather the consequence of the fact that matter warps space-time. That does not address how the atmosphere of the Earth...
And what does the first part of that article we've just gone over? Gravity is one of the four fundamental forces. Gravity is one of the fundamental forces, Anthony.
Is that the right bit?
Yes. We good?
Yep.
So the rumpus, Mr. Air, is not the atmosphere. Gravity is one of the four fundamental forces. Wrong-o-rama, you doofus. They're from their alma mater wiki. The standard model of particle physics is a theory describing three of the four known fundamental forces: the electromagnetic, weak, and strong interactions, and not including the gravitational force. So the standard model doesn't deal with gravitational. It doesn't treat it as gravitation or a force. It just doesn't. We're just not going to talk about it. This is a joke in the universe, as well as classifying as all known elementary particles. So I don't know where you're getting this from. Probably just sitting in a physics class, just memorizing and regurgitating. Just keep on telling me. Yeah. I'll write it down now. Remember, I'll use a mnemonic. Frigging clowns. And we got to top it off with this. This is real short. Make sure you turn it up real loud. I want everyone to hear this one. I'm not going to show it to you. Go. Oh, am I going to have to show it to you? No. Play from 253.18 to 253.25.
There are two separate
you're
things
rumpusing,
here.
aren't you?
No, you're interrupting me.
No, you're rumpusing, aren't you?
No, you're
This
rumpusing
is
me.
what Sean thinks.
Oh, boy. So, are we up?
You are.
The creme de la creme. Rumpus, Mr. Air is not the atmosphere, charging Anthony with rumpusing him. I just thought I'd leave you with that. Enjoy. Thanks for your ear. Have a nice day.
And with that, I'll say, if you are watching on either the Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. However, if you are watching this live, then unfortunately this is where we will bid you farewell. So a massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in, smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. A massive thank you to Quantum Eraser for making this presentation possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Good job. Well done. Very concise, very thorough, as always.
I couldn't let it go, man. I I only did that 5 minutes. There was much more. I couldn't do it. That part stood out to me, and it was scary to me, because I turned the video on and was watching it, and seeing him up there in the corner, I'm telling you, I was scared.
Yeah, Anthony did a great job. You could see George absolutely panicking every time, Anthony was asking a question about the force, and George was just all over the place, absolutely all over the place. That was classic, Anthony.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. Good stuff, John. Good
I want to hear what Anthony's got to say on it. You go there, Anthony? Sleeping Warrior?
And
Ahoy.
Thank you, John, for including Rumpus, telling somebody that he's being rumpused, because that was great. I almost spit out my drink when he said that.
That was the funniest thing. You're rumpusing me.
I was driving my car when I was listening to that, and I almost crashed because I was like, "What? Are you kidding?" So funny.
Oh man, I had to top it off with that. Yeah, but the if you go over that presentation again and look exactly with what George said, I'm almost at the point now where I'm starting to feel sorry for him, and this might be the last time I do. I expose him because he's already toe tagged a couple times. There's only so much you can do. If this doesn't, tell people that, oh my God, then I don't know what will. So that's my point. Just exposing pretender clowns. That's it. And he's part of the Globetard Brain Trust. So, and like I said before, if the Globetard Brain Trust are abject morons, then the rank and file members of the congregation, of their congregations, there's no hope. Right?
Yeah, shit rolls downhill, all right. And the other people do parrot their every crappy argument.
Yep. No due diligence. They just parrot it. You can see it all over the place. It's starting to get really scary, and I don't know. I just want more people to come in to this community, into the flat Earth, into this debate, and just people off the street just to witness it. Because if they do, they're going to be flat earthers quick. So thanks, guys.
I'm afraid you're overestimating the average public. They probably just step away and forget all about it.
Yeah,
because they don't get it.
I hate to agree with you, Owen, but you're absolutely right.
Well, one can hope.
Yeah, you can. Hope springs eternal, though, in that regard, I'm afraid, John.
Well, it has to catch their interest. They just have to find some of the subjects kind of fascinating in some way, and that's how you hook them. And then they'll figure it out over time. But if they just bump into it just like that in the middle of it, there's a big chance they'll just get a headache and like, I don't know what's going on here.
Why would you have such empathy for George?
Yeah, with George too. If you're not an expert at this, it's much easier to fall for that kind of storytelling, because that is what he's mainly focusing on the storytelling, making it sound proper and everything. The way he applies his voice is very careful compared to the actual reasoning he is applying. So that's why he's storytelling. He's not really explaining.
You mean the actual words, right?
Yeah, they're not actually making any sense. He's not making coherent sense. He's not making a coherent point. He's not addressing the question. It is just word salad. That's what I typed in the chat while I was watching. This is just word salad. Loads of it.
Yes.
Loads.
And for a lot of people, it's too much to get, so they just try to pick out words that are familiar with them. So they'll respond to the palette of words, not to the actual structure.
Right. But taking it all in context and stringing it together as QE does, it does take a lot of work. I know you said it only took you 5 minutes. I doubt that's the case, but you know what I mean. It takes work. It takes effort.
No. It didn't take me 5 minutes. And Jose doesn't have a transcript, so I had to go back and forth with the video. It didn't take me 5 minutes. It took me about 3 hours.
Oh wow! Yeah, I believe it. That I believe. 5 minutes, no. 3 hours, yeah, that sounds about right. And then just to present it, half an hour.
Yeah, it takes a long time to go through these things, man.
I appreciate that. That's why I was on it like flies on shit. I'm like, yeah, if you've got the timestamps, for me to rattle it off, it only takes me about 10 minutes to line them all up, and then, kind of cling on to the edge of the sofa with my fingernails while I'm doing it, going, come on, please don't get one of these wrong.
No, you got them. Yeah, we're good to go. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I didn't have anything to do yesterday evening after I finished part 1 of my car, and I just wanted to sit down and relax. And then I before I went out to work on the car, of course, Anthony has got to be doing a debate, right? So it popped up on my damn recommended, and I say, oh, Anthony's debating. And I was doing something. I said, I'll listen to it later, because I was doing something else I wanted to get finished before I worked on the car. And I turned it on, and Anthony wasn't even there yet. It was like an hour and a half after I turned it on there. What's going on? And then he popped in, right? So Anthony, you're killing me, man.
Good that there's all this material, though, don't you think? I mean, there's Ranty putting out stuff, Jose putting out stuff. It's nice that there's a constant. Obviously, Arwin is on the panel. I say that like I shouldn't be plugging Arwin when it's like, oh, so obvious that the early bird takes place. Like everyone knows, I should still plug it, right? But it's just good that there's a lot of content that people can actually tune into. And I think it's all good content. You know, I know we disagree with what George said to Anthony, and we've pointed out that he's missed the point, nor not even addressed the question more accurately. But without Jose putting that material out, then you wouldn't have had an evening's worth of work. Isn't that great?
Yeah. And Arwin, his show's too early for me. Sorry, Arwin. I can't do it. I just can't make it. So now I caught it a couple times when it was later. I think he did 1 or 2 shows later. I caught Rufy on there. I don't know the circumstances of that. But how many guests do you have on there?
Me?
Yeah.
I rarely get guests, and sometimes usually I just get one guest if I get any. And yesterday I had 2 guests on. So or was it 2 days?
Who?
ago?
Pete?
Yeah,
Pete?
Ranty and Brenda then came in. It was kind of funny. Not too long. So
I mean, it's a perfect early morning show, though. It's like when I tune into it, it's very laid back. Occasionally there'll be something that's triggered Arwin, but not very often. But generally speaking, it's very laid back. He's talking to the chat. He's just discussing the facts of the day. It's just interesting, you know. It's a very good way for the American. It's an appropriate name, Early Bird, because you could wake up and go, "Oh God," and then turn on Arwin, and it wouldn't be too distressing. But he might have a guest every so often that is interesting and isn't too stressful to listen to. So it's a good show. I like Arwin's Early Bird.
Right. I try to keep it calm.
Oh, and I've wanted to bring this up for so long. 1 second. I wanted to thank Arwin. He dogs me out all the time. I just want to ask him about something. Hold on 1 second. Let me do something. You still sharing my screen?
I can be. I am now. Google.
Yeah, let me go somewhere here. Hold on a second.
Okay.
This might take a little bit of time. Where is he? Show port. Do I still have him on here? I don't even know. I've had these for so long. I don't even go in here anymore.
What are you doing? Do you want me to show the Hangout?
You could show. What do you mean, show the Hangout?
Does the Hangout need to see it?
Yeah, you can show it to everyone. That's fine. I don't have anything to hide.
That's not what I'm asking.
As far as they know. You see that? Okay, I did this presentation a few years ago in 2016. I did the science presentation on Cathexis' channel. And guess who I ran across? Arwin! And look what he wrote.
Oh,
this
yeah,
is so
that's right.
nice. Watching this video should be a default part of the schooling program at the start of all middle schools.
Yeah.
What a nice thing to say.
Top comment as well.
Yeah, it's a top. What did I didn't even respond. What? Here, let me
I give
respond.
credit where credit is due, so.
Did you see the response from Mr. Good?
Oh, that guy. He is a specific commenter troll that's been haunting me since the start. Yeah, I never catch him in chat though. He always leaves comments everywhere I go.
So there you go. I should have commented on this. I didn't catch it immediately because I don't get notifications for these videos. But I was screwing around one day and I went back to see if I, just for research and see what I put in this presentation and what I could put in new ones. And I just looked down here and yours was the top one. I'd say, hey, Arwin, I wonder what nasty thing he said to me. And I was shocked right here. I was like, that was very nice. That was very kind.
No, come on, I'm not like that. You know that. I'm not like right the hand or something that's just gonna... Yeah, I don't smear anyone. I try not to.
That's a problem because the Discord server's not mine, right? It's banned from the Discord server. I've got no control over that right now. I typically have a nobody's banned policy, right?
Who is?
Right the hand.
No, he's not.
Oh, wow. I wish I'd have known that. I'd have just said, get your ass in here. When he was...
As far as I know, he's not banned.
Oh, well, then in that case, next time he's giving that kind of crap in the chat, as he was all day today, I'll be telling him that, no, if you want to come in and debate Quantum Eraser on this topic, you feel free. Come in. The fact that you put out a standing order to challenge any Globetard demonstration on Ranty's channel doesn't mean he automatically gets fair view from you. That's not what you had suggested to Ranty. The fact that he vocalised that and then made it seem like you were turning down an automatic debate opportunity for Right the Hand is just absurd, but I'm sure Ranty's had his ass spanked for that.
Well, no, he was still talking about it. Yes, I made another comment to him yesterday. He said something about it on, well, because Anthony was on Randy's show yesterday too, right?
Right.
Right.
What?
And at the end, because I'm listening just for background noise because some other show wasn't rerunning at that time. We won't mention any names. But I was listening to that one for background noise, and I'm listening to the end. Everything was going good. Anthony went off the reservation a little bit. I kind of liked it. He was acting like he was Einstein or something. I thought it was funny. Peace be upon him. And I was listening to it, and then at the end, they had to say something. I heard my name. I said, "What the fuck?" So nope, it's still not over yet. That's all right. Keep bashing your heads in with a shovel. No problem. I'm not even going to say anything anymore. Just say what you want.
Well, the thing is, I can't owe you a little bit of an apology, because now I see the frustration. When you were asking me to put those video links in the information box below each of these videos, so when this goes out to an audience, those of you who are watching this now, below the video, there's a whole load of links. Now, no one ever looks in the info box, but it's very useful to direct someone's attention to it. Now, but for the fact that they are there, I couldn't direct people to them and go, well, you just go to that little info box and there's X, Y, whatever video you're referring to in the instance, I don't know, quantum mechanics explanation or double slit experiment, whatever, it doesn't matter. Perspective. Just so it's not just you, I've got a couple of other people's videos in there as well. And when you were saying, just get them in there, get those links in there, I was like, yeah, I'll get it done, yeah. You know, kind of...
yeah.
Now I get it. It's because you said it to Anthony in that chat, but just watch those presentations, you know, stop paying so much attention to the chat. I know he might be half listening to this while he's editing, we'll see in a minute if he pipes up. But pay more attention to the actual presentation, because the amount of times Anon has come in and made a fool of himself, and probably will continue to, while he ignores the actual presentation that he claims to have watched. Now, maybe he was there, maybe he was in the live stream, but was he paying attention? Not really. Me, when there's something on those presentations that I don't get, I'm the first to highlight the fact that I don't get it. I want to know. And if something is clear, or at least I think it is, I'll express it and hopefully get called out if I'm not correct. But we still have people that will just spout utter nonsense in the face of saying that they've watched these presentations, and you're like, these are backed up. They're not necessarily all scientifically valid, but I'm saying the presentations have got cited sources and in some instances scientific validity being given to you there and then in the presentation. It's like, oh, what more could you want? It's like you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of that, I have one more for you to do. We talked about it before, but I think you forgot because you got too busy. It's this end of light is a wave. I want you to put it right beneath the double slit. I'm going to send it to you again and then bug you for the next week.
Well, is it one that I trimmed out, right? It's a Bulbuster special that says light is not a wave. Is that what you mean? You just want that in the info box?
I want this one specifically.
When you say this one...
Yeah, because it's the one I did the other day when Arwen got real angry and left.
Oh,
and then I did it right after him.
Yes, I've got you, yes. I thought that was coming...
Oh, yeah, when you strawman me, I remember that.
Oh, here we go.
I don't remember what the argument was, but I remember that I left because
But you know you need to apply some obfuscation, so get it in early, right?
Yeah, nip it in the bud.
Well done. Smooth move.
It's not it wasn't about you, Arwen. I had this because I just got frustrated, and I did it once before, I think on Ballbusters, but then I just pulled this section out and expanded on it a little bit more. So yeah, so whenever somebody comes on and says that light is not a particle, right? That we just play this video.
Sure. I mean, I
I'm
had
not
already
done
trimmed
yet,
it out.
just so you know.
Sorry, go on, Owen.
Just saying, I'm not done yet. Look, I never came into this discussion about the quantum mechanics about with the presumption that light was a wave. And that was the straw man that was basically what that I was subjected to. That's okay. But now I'm actually being exposed to a lot of information, including actual quantum mechanics studies, and I'm actually getting doubts again. So we're not done yet.
No worries.
Yeah,
but
we didn't straw. Go ahead, Nathan.
I was just going to say we weren't leveling anything at you in this instance, Arwin. This is purely an explanation. It's already been trimmed out once. There's a Ballbusters with a picture of the double slit in pictorial format with the Ballbusters girl in front, and that's called "Light is not a wave" in massive letters. You know, but this is it's the same presentation but done just after you dropped. That was the only reference to you. That's what I'm saying. This isn't in any way referenced at you or leveled at you.
I saw that, but what I would like to make as a short statement about the whole thing is that the apparent the apparent wave-like pattern of the light is not proof that light is a wave. And leave it to that. Because I'm not going to exclude light from actually being a wave by other standards, because it's just getting very complex here. I already figured out that light has a speed through an actual empirical experiment that I also presented on my show, by the way. But yeah.
But what I wanted to touch on was we didn't strawman you.
You did at the time, kind of, because you were presenting the particle wave duality, while that was neither of my approaches.
Now there's a straw man. No, he was not. No, he definitely was not.
I was suggesting an instantaneous indivisible light beam, or infinitely divisible light beam. That was my...
let's just get it clear. You leveled wave-particle duality at QE's door, and I absolutely guarantee you that is a straw man.
But you were the guys that were using that argument to try to deter my...
No. Incorrect. Sorry, Arwin. You're wrong.
What do you mean?
We're fine against it. We're fine against that shit. That's the cause of the bloody problem. We definitely are arguing that. We're fine against it.
Not any problem to me.
What's the source of this? There's
other aspects.
There's a reason for this, QE. Where did the wave-particle duality shite come from in the first instance? You mentioned it on Ballbusters the other day. My memory's just not good enough.
The apparent wave pattern.
The wave particle duality, like I said, it could have gotten nipped in the bud back in the day, because the first technique to describe it was matrix mechanics, brought to you from Werner Heisenberg, Max Born, and Pascal. So the reason why I'm just speculating on the reason why it didn't take hold was because few people had expertise in matrix algebra, but they were real familiar with wave mechanics. So Schrodinger's wave mechanics kind of took over, but they're equivalent. Matrix mechanics and Schrodinger's wave equation, they're essentially equivalent. So there's no difference, really. So what I was saying was, if matrix mechanics was adopted as a descriptive method, then we would have never heard any of this wave particle duality, or it wouldn't be to the degree that it is. That's what I said.
Okay.
Yes, that's probably why I couldn't repeat it verbatim. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, those are approach structures. I actually recognize the words, but I'm a newbie.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while. Be careful. Where are you studying? Where are you going?
Well, currently I'm going through Feynman's lectures, but I'm actually getting kind of sick of it because it's just doubt in Einstein mechanic bullshit. Like
there's a lot of non-quantum mechanics in there.
Exactly. There's a lot of Einsteinian bullshit speculation.
Yep.
And I don't like that, and that makes me instantly distrusting of him as an overall source. So I'm gonna try to move on to other books.
There isn't an overriding source. That. You know, nobody's perfect. Feynman's no exception, right? That's why We have citations.
Right now, I'm just going to bypass the obvious pseudoscience mechanics, like black holes, blah blah blah.
And maybe he's kind of aware of it, which is why maybe he says things like, "If it doesn't agree with experiment, it's wrong."
Yeah,
You know what I
it is
mean?
a possibility. Look, I've conceptualized that this is not his original book. That his original book was probably a lot smaller. Then he was by his publisher forced to push the Einsteinian, or it wouldn't sell because it was the rage.
Nah, that's just fantasy bollocks. Just because he's in cognitive dissonance, he's just a bloke.
Speculation.
I'm just saying, Feynman's just a bloke, right? The fact that he's fighting cognitive dissonance in the reification model that he thought he lived in, which would absolutely be the case, he's just a bloke in a time that we have that reification fantasy forced upon us. He's no different. So don't immediately assume that he's got like some divine properties where he's always going to be right and he's a great source of everything. That's nobody.
He's just a man.
But hold on. Through the way he writes, I'm definitely able to deduce that he can very accurately compartmentalize information. So he shouldn't be having that kind of cognitive dissonance problems. He's probably very aware.
Bet you out divining the thoughts of Feynman.
The way he writes, he's not a total nerd. He's a really smart guy that has a very clear oversight.
I love Feynman too. I could give him a big warm hug.
Okay.
Come here, you big lug.
Come here, Feynman, you little bugger.
Okay.
Yeah,
But-
just like with anyone else. I mean,
If
obviously,
I want some actual progress, I'm probably gonna have to move on to some more serious. Serious.
Like I was saying, he's obviously brilliant, right? But not everything he says is correct. He's just a man. He's just like all of us. We all make mistakes, right? But there's a lot of good information with just the general overall physics that he has. I like the way he teaches. Personally, I do. But
yes, I agree. The first half of the first intro part was very informative. It was good overlook over mechanics and physics and chemistry, and it was good. It was great.
Yeah,
very concise. I liked it.
You chew the meat and you spit out the bones. That's with everyone, right?
Well, that's my next question.
Right.
So, what experimental data has Feynman gone over that you've studied so far?
Sorry?
What's the experimental data that he's actually been discussing?
I'm still in the intro stages, and he has made a lot of big claims there also. Like, for example, that when that mass increases when it moves to light speed velocity, and that kind of weird Einsteinian nonsense. And similar type of claims. And yet he tells good stories, and then he starts to go off in weird pseudoscience exceptional situations, and then quickly inserts things like, oh yeah, and of course this is fact. So I caught him many times. But the first half of the first page is very good.
What's the name of the book?
It's Feynman's lectures, and I find it really ironic because, not everybody may know, but Feyn, that's actually swamp ground.
Is it pronounced Feynman or Feynman?
Same thing.
Oh, okay.
So I thought it was kind of ironic that he seems to be all boggy with Einsteinian crap, so he's like swamped.
But think of what's that
Poor
quote,
guy.
John? At the first sip of the cup will make you an atheist. At the bottom of the cup, God is waiting for you. Right? Well, that implies, although I've probably butchered the quote, a transitional stage. Right? In other words, recognition of the initial pseudo-physics, and then at the end, the experimental data. That's going to be a journey of discovery for everyone. No one's excluded. Feynman included. That's my point.
Right.
What is that quote? Have you got it to hand, just so it's not left butchered by me?
It's Werner Heisenberg, and I don't have it at hand, but he said, something about
the first sip.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. The first the first sip from the glass of natural science will turn you into an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you.
I'm glad you remembered. It just didn't want to leave it butchered. Well done, Chocolate.
Copy that.
Right. So Heisenberg knew quite quick. A lot of these guys that you could read a lot of the literature back then, and a lot of them knew it. But like I said, I don't know if Richard Feynman at the end of his life, I'd have to go search this out. But as far as I know, well, I knew he was an atheist. Now, I don't know if that changed at the end. But remember, he was the one who said that nobody understands quantum mechanics. He said the entire mystery of quantum mechanics is in the double slit. So that's telling me that he didn't understand the double slit willfully, because atheism and quantum mechanics are married bachelors. They're incompatible. So you have to willfully dismiss or remain ignorant of it. But I think Feynman knew. Obviously, he was brilliant. He could understand what was going on here.
I don't care. I'm not interested, you or I, in divining the thoughts of Feynman. My point is, when you take citations from anybody, that's the context that you're giving. It's the citation. When people will take something overarching in a more limited form, like the reference in its entirety, to cherry pick out bits that contradict your citation, you're doing it in a more overarching way when you say, well, Feynman's a good source, as you phrased it. Well, there aren't any good sources in reality. They're all... I'm not saying everyone's the same quality of source. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is there are imperfections in everybody. And regardless of whether or not Feynman realised it at the end of his life, is inconsequential to the information that's valid when you're using him or you're citing him.
That's true. I agree with that. I agree with that statement, yes.
Right. So when I talk about it, I'll say, look, this guy's really good. He's very good at explaining, but beware of the Einsteinian bullshit.
You don't have to make that disclaimer. When you cite, that's kind of my point. When our opponents... let's use it in an alternative way. If I cite Neil deGrasse Tyson, instantaneously as a flat earther, you know I don't take the words of Neil deGrasse Tyson as my priest, overarching source of information is definitely not Tyson. So that immediately deals with that little problem, doesn't it? But when I cite him, it's that specific thing that I will use. Now, in the case of Tyson, it's an interesting citation because I'm citing him in the negative, which is to say that I'm forcing the hand of my opponent to accept their own position with their priest's words, i.e., the ball travels through the air, the earth, ground, whatever, Earth's in a sphere format, spins underneath. That's what he's saying when he tweets out his Coriolis effect on the football field, causing the goal to go in. Well, I'm citing that, not because I actually agree with what Neil deGrasse Tyson's saying, but what I'm trying to achieve is wrapped up in a citation, a specific portion of what he said, in this case tweeted, that makes my point to tie my opponent to a position. But it doesn't mean I have to take anything else he said when he tweeted the next tweet, the previous tweet, his book he's written, his overall feelings, thoughts, or positions, religious or otherwise, on the nature and shape of Earth. None of it's relevant. Only the specific citation that you make. And with Feynman, he's a great source. Superb source. You can pull all sorts of wonderful citations. But the way you're phrasing it is, I don't think he's going to be a good source. Well, he will be, but in some instances so is Tyson. What a great source of forcing our opponent to accept their own rhetoric. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right, yeah, he can be a hostile witness. Those are the best. He could be a friend and a foe. Why did you... I'm trying to understand why you even had to explain that to people.
No,
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
That's why they throw Tyson under the bus, because he says you can't see curvature at 128,000 feet.
Yeah, but that's not the point.
Boilers don't like that, even though that he still believes that he lives on a ball.
No, this is the point. Yeah. Chocolate's just fallen for the bait.
That particular point destroys the ball. So
yeah. I appreciate you explaining it, Nathan, but I just think that is apodictic.
No, it's just happened seconds earlier. No, wrong. You just missed what happened. Chocolate fell for it completely. So what Chocolate's just done is he started arguing about the source and the context of the source itself, i.e. Tyson. Not my quote, not the citation and what my citation was in reference to. And in this case, it was even more convoluted because it was in comparison to Arwin and what he's referencing when he uses an overarching source in Feynman. My point being that our opponents will take all of it. If you cite deGrasse Tyson or Feynman, they'll say, well, over here, Feynman says X, Y, Z. And that's just what Chocolate's done. In other words, the reason this is happening is because of a point you make continually, and it only sunk in the other day. I'm sure I highlighted when the penny dropped for me. They don't know the difference between citations and sources. They just don't, and many of our own side don't. And because of that, when you expand the context of what that means out, you end up in a discussion. I know it wasn't an argument just now, because I would agree with what Chocolate said. In principle, everything he said was right. But we're not talking about the general views and opinions of Neil deGrasse Tyson or what he said in other contexts. So that's why you were all over it, John. You're like, oh, no, that's not the point. Exactly is the point, because he, Chocolate in this case, has made the point in terms of how he's behaved. Oh, we've brought up Tyson. Well, Tyson thinks this and Tyson thinks that. Let's talk about the reference. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I just... how can I say this? Doesn't it make sense, not even being educated, this made sense to me a long time ago, that people are not always right and always wrong. People are right and they can support themselves in certain areas, but that doesn't mean everything else they say that you have to agree with. Hold it close to your heart, Jose retard. I mean, no, the citations stand on their own, right? Those citations have to be supported. Right? If somebody says something, even Feynman, if he says something, you have to be able to support that. Right? You just have to be able to support that. And if he says something later on in an article that contradicts that, then he's a contradicting idiot. Right? Following me? Hello?
Absolutely. But most people don't recognize that. That's the problem. You say you qualified yourself and said, well, educated. You dropped that word in subtly. It flew by the statement. But no, that's quite important. Because most people don't. Most people will argue about the source itself and bring up the entire reference and essentially cherry pick from it.
Most people don't know what cherry picking is. The baller, they don't know. And as we showed the other day, now we only showed Brenda, but it's obvious from just their comments and the way they react that they don't understand collectively the difference between a citation and a reference and how they're used. So that tells me that it's one of two things. One, they haven't graduated high school recently. And number two, most definitely, they never attended university or done it or completed a research paper, because I find it stupid even talking about it. So I don't get it. That's what it's telling me. These people aren't educated. They don't know the difference between citations and references, and the citations themselves have to be supported, because anyone can say anything, right? On its face, it's just a baseless bare assertion fallacy if you don't have any cowbell with it, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say, let's index that. When you say cowbell, that's what you're talking about. Support for any baseless assertion, usually, that's being made, or citation that's been claimed by another person quoting it or writing it down. Well, that's fine, but from there, you need to actually support it. I can write something down and publish it, and you can go away and cite it. Doesn't mean I haven't made it up. Got to support it. Cowbell.
Precisely. In fact, there was a really good example. Maybe I didn't use it today. Did I use it today? With the train wreck of Newtonian mechanics. Remember, I used Feynman, and then I used Shankar to say, that Newtonian mechanics was bunk. But then I supported those two citations with what? Simple double slit experiment. That's a perfect example. Now, a lot of citations, like definitions and stuff, you got to use common sense here, people. If you're just defining something out of the dictionary, sometimes they're wrong. It's going to be hard to support apodictic stuff. I'm talking more of, scientists citing subject matter experts in their area. Those are two different things, and common sense rules. So
yeah, you've got subject matter experts and you've got the Socratic method in discussion, and often that's why we hear the word semantics all the time. It's like, well, okay, what is being called semantics is actually a coming together of terms, agreeing on a definition of something. Well, yeah, that's semantics, but ultimately speaking, you're reaching a point where you agree about what a word means, as opposed to providing scientific validity for an assertion about a fundamental principle that they base a world view on. That's very different. That requires some cowbell. Just agreeing on what it means, shout out to Spurs, is very different. That's an application of the Socratic method. It's just agreeing on what you're talking about, as opposed to a very real concept being claimed. So here's my concept. It's how our world works. Well, no. Now we need some cowbell with that.
Exactly. And when somebody says, well, it's just semantics, I'm sitting there, is that your argument? I mean, are you a moron? Yeah, it's semantics. We have to define terms. If I'm talking with somebody and they're talking, let's just use an example, they're thinking of an apple, but when they say apple, I think it's an orange, and we don't resolve that, and then the person keeps talking to me, and I'm saying, this person's crazy. We can never communicate with each other, right? Because we're on two different pages. This is common sense.
Hold on. As opposed to me saying, well, a schnozberry tastes a bit like a banana. And a schnozberry isn't actually a real thing, but while we argue about whether or not it's actually tasting like a banana, we've whistled past the point that there's no validity being given to the thing being claimed. Schnozberries. Well, can you back your schnozberry with cowbell? Proof of its existence? No, that's just semantics. It tastes like a banana. No, we actually need some cowbell for a positive assertion being made. There's something that exists here, claimed by you, called schnozberries. That's different to semantics. That's not an application of the Socratic method when you're agreeing on terms of something that doesn't bloody exist.
Yeah, that's a little different game right there. You're right. But the important part is semantics. I mean, somebody says semantics, I'm sitting there, is that the end of your argument? It's so stupid, right? Yeah, we have to define terms. The Socratic method, you define terms so we can talk to each other and we're on the same page. Like I said, if you're talking about an apple and I think it's an orange, we're not going to be communicating with each other. One of us or both are going to get aggravated and we're going to talk right past each other. So you can't communicate without the definition of terms. Isn't that just common sense?
Well, that's why I guess I do that all the time on the show, because I think sometimes they're saying something, but they're not knowing what they're saying. And I think they have a different concept than what we're saying. That's why I do that pretty regularly.
Yeah, with Spurs, he's essentially using an equivocation that he doesn't even realise because he doesn't understand the terms correctly. So what he wants to say is fluid. That's what he really wants to say. He just doesn't even realise that. That's the term he's fishing for. Hopefully he doesn't watch this show and start bloody using it, because that'll piss me right off if I've given it him. But that's what he's doing. He's using this equivocation, right? Fluid. We've got different states described by some as fluids, and both can be liquid or gas when using this equivocation. Fluids. Because gases are not liquids. They are different states. But because there's this definition actually not being used by Spurs, but I'll just do it for him because it's painfully annoying when he doesn't even know the word to equivocate with. But that's the situation we're faced with, right? I can't even have him on the actual word that he's using to equivocate because he doesn't bloody use it.
Yeah, fluids, that's a sticky term, right? Because that's what they'll do. They'll say, yep, it's a fluid. Well, it's arbitrarily classified liquids and gases as fluids. So what? Liquids aren't gases. So when you start to drill down into these, then it becomes obvious. That's semantics, right? That's not an argument.
Exactly. That is semantics, precisely.
So is that what it is? Because liquids and gases can be both described as fluids, but liquids and gases aren't the same thing, and people equivocate that. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. You can call peanut butter and Marmite spreads, but it doesn't make peanut butter anything like Marmite.
Right.
Yeah, you'll see those. You'll see a lot of people use fluids to try to get around the gas pressure argument. Yeah, go ahead.
No one was talking, but I will add something, which is to say that for somehow and some why, Anthony's been suckered into doing the same thing. Right? We get descriptions of columns of air and layers of air, and then
That's
what do you know?
preposterous.
Yeah, well, Anthony stuck it up on screen with his what's he call that tube? You know, it's got a tube with all these different liquids and a tomato in it.
The density tower.
The density gradient, right? Well, the density gradient is a perfectly acceptable visual depiction of density gradients and how you can explain relative density. That's a perfectly fine and useful way of describing it with liquids. But to suddenly impose that on gases is like, no, gases aren't sat on top of each other. An isotropic, inhomogeneous mixture of gases.
You're getting better at that.
I am. Thanks.
I do have a question, but still, and this is more of an educational question more than a debate question. It's more of a clarify, but it does relate to quantum mechanics at some point. How does the molecular weight? How's the dynamic or the connection between molecular weight of a particle and quantum mechanics? Can you unpack that a little bit, John, or is there anything that I can go towards to try to figure that out or understand that a little bit better?
I don't understand the question.
Well, you know, like in the periodic table, everything has a molecular weight, right? You know, like a hydrogen atom is lighter than a iron atom. But how does that relate, like in a quantum mechanics? What's going on? I guess what's going on there? Because if quantum mechanics affects the particles and that at that level, how does that relate? Do you have any idea or anything where I can go to try to figure that out, or do you still not understand the question?
Still don't understand the question.
Because, well, it's back to that kinetic energy thing. Like, okay, iron, you know, like to move an iron molecule, you're going to need more kinetic energy than you would with, say, a hydrogen molecule, right? But there's a quantum state to those particles, and you said if Newton's law isn't right, and it's a quantum mechanics is the true understanding of how this is what's going on there. I mean, I guess I just want clarification, or I guess you still don't probably know what I'm asking you.
I don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not trying to evade or anything. I'm trying to grasp the question. If you think about it, maybe if you could just go ahead and send it to me. You know, when it's a little calmer around, when you collect your thoughts and just write it down.
Okay, I'll try. I don't even know if I can even collect my thoughts on this because I might be trying to get in an area that there may not be an answer for. So, okay, I'll see what I can do.
Can I have a attempt? From what I heard you saying, Paul, you're saying there's on the periodic table there's a weight applied to each of the elements. Where's that weight derived from? Is that your question?
Right, and well, in one sense of the word, I'm asking that question. But if particles are, if Newton's laws fall apart with motion and and mass and all that stuff, and mass to me would be the weight of that particle.
Watch out for that one. That's a tricky one.
Well, that's what I mean. I guess it's probably part of what's the best way to describe, because that iron atom needs more kinetic energy, obviously, to move than anything that weighs less than that. But there's a quantum connection, like the position of it, if Newton's motion falls apart with quantum mechanics, then really describing kinetic energy in a particle would fall down or would begin to fall apart, wouldn't it? Or am I still, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not following. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is what happens when I just listen. My brain goes all over the place. I'll see if I can get a concise way of stating it somehow. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Any more for any more?
4 more hours.
No, most definitely not. With that, I will say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you tuning on the premiering stream, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley. A massive thank you to all of today's debating panel, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!